Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on the Medical Billing Company Owner Mastermind Group. Today, we're going to continue our marketing series. You can listen to part 1 on my website at 4dglobalinc.com. Under the Resources tab, you'll see the topic called Close More Deals. We talk about how to close more qualified leads that turn into loyal clients. We also did another webinar on how to attract more qualified new clients and how to market your medical billing company even if you don't have the budget. Our next session will be on March 6th, so mark your calendars and you'll look out for an invite. We'll be sending that to you as well. In this, what I've decided for 2018 was to have 4 different pillars of education, and marketing is the first one, but we're also going to cover processes, people, customer satisfaction, and customer loyalty. My goal for this year is to give you valuable information that you could put into practice in your business right away. And I would like to be more available to all of you to discuss and help share my experiences with running my medical billing company and scaling my company, and offering some one-on-one discovery sessions where we'll have the talk and I'll use my experience and all the tips that I've learned that hopefully will help you save time, and I'll help you break down the problems in your businesses, and together we'll figure out what is the next big step you can take to solve those problems. Okay, so we have a lot to cover today, so without further ado, I want to introduce you to James. He's a good friend of mine. He's helped me with my marketing roadmap. He's created a marketing process that worked best for me. There are lots of marketing companies out there, but what is unique about James and his company is that he has an out-of-the-box marketing solution, and he works specifically with healthcare and medical practices and physicians. You will see a survey come up at the end of this call. Please provide your feedback, and now I will turn it over to James.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Hani. Great intro. Okay, so welcome everybody. So I'm happy to be here again. I feel really fortunate to be able to share so much about the process that I've been using with clients that I help to really target and connect with their specific medical practice prospects, their target market. And this whole seminar is kind of interesting. Hani had asked me to focus on marketing as a really relevant topic for the beginning of the year, and I thought that really was perfect, because as we begin to get into a new year, we start to think about our goals, right? And so I had a few of my medical billing company clients where, I had been working with them, and I had asked them, okay, well, what are your goals, right? What are your goals for 2018? And the funny thing about setting goals is the rate at which we set our goals is basically defined on our belief level that we can accomplish them, right? And so in order to create smart, measurable goals, especially when it comes to growing your business, it's really important that you're able to see the path, create that roadmap to accomplish those goals. Now, for many of you, you can do that based on what you've known. You can look into the past and you can see what's the processes that you've used to market your services to your target market, to your ideal prospects, right? To your specific type of physicians that you feel like connect with you, that you connect with best. You can look back and see what's working. But what I was excited to be able to do is try to offer an approach that I feel like a lot of you are actually not leveraging. You're not utilizing that, right? And for me, you're going to hear me get kind of passionate and a little riled up, because so I've worked with medical practices for over 15 years. I owned a primary care practice, and the frustration that I went through as a primary care practice owner with medical billing companies was this lack of awareness of how important they were to me as that owner, how much I needed to rely on them, not just to grow the business, but to decide what types of services to provide, what types of patients to accept. Could I bring on more providers? How would I handle staffing issues, right? You all kind of have this idea about how and why the services you provide, becomes the foundation for, revenue projections or revenue stability, financial stability for a practice, right? But then you go ahead and put together marketing plans, a marketing approach that completely forgets that level of influence that you actually have, right? And so that's why for today, I titled this, which is the third part of a series we're doing on marketing. I titled this one, How to Use the Power of Influence, right? To really, really leverage, to use that power of influence with creating an education marketing program, okay? And I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna break down all the details of what that looks like, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I've been putting it together to reach out to not just individual healthcare practices, right? But how I've found a way to infiltrate different associations on a specialty by specialty basis, where I've built up a network of over 15,000 physicians and practice managers that I now do highly valuable training to. And I'm going to share with you the feedback that I get from them and how that helps to drive my ability to continue following this type of education marketing approach. Okay. All right. So that was my quick intro. I do see more people are jumping on here, so I'm going to delay just for another quick second. And let's jump into basically make sure everybody can see me okay. I was having some technical issues, but let me just get over those. And hopefully it should be good. Okay, great. Okay, so quick intro. So again, my name is James Riviezzo. I have a medical practice consulting company called Practice on Your Terms, again, which ultimately, 90% of my time inside of that is training and educating practice managers and physicians on some of the biggest challenges that they face in running independent medical practices, and oftentimes in even corporate owned ones too. Okay. And so the other company that I have, which is Aflex Healthcare Marketing, really, I designed it in this way so that I could create this bridge between all that time that I was spending and all the heavy lifting and really discovering what resonates with those physicians, how to get their attention, how to get them motivated to act, how to get them to understand really what's going on, right? And one of the things you're going to hear me talk about a lot is today, and you've heard me in the previous sessions, how do we speak to the problems that they know they have versus the problems they don't know they have? The mistake that you guys make most of the time is that you launch right into any conversation with a prospect or a lead and you start going right after what you think needs to be done, right? Without really listening to what the problems are and how they specifically perceive those problems, okay? So again, I'm gonna tell you how to roll all that into a marketing approach that has way more impact and gets you way better results. Okay, so I'm so happy to be here with Hani. Hani and I have worked together for a little while now, and I've been really impressed at her approach because, like I said, there's this kind of closed loop that should occur between the truly valuable resource that you guys as medical billing companies are for those practices, the challenges that I have to provide resources to connect those resources to those practices, right? And when it comes in from Hani's perspective, Hani's here to help you guys understand how to create this lean process so that you can focus on what matters most in your business, right? Those are the conversations that really struck me and why I'm so happy to be here. Why I told Hani, like, we got to work together. Let me kind of share as much as I can with your audience, with your network, because I feel like this really is the perfect closed loop to solve that main problem, right? Because physicians don't know the problems that they have and how they're actually affecting their ability to maximize their revenue, right? And you guys can do a way better job in connecting with those practices, right? And helping them understand what that value is and for them to take action, right? Because so many of them have this mentality that they just want to do it themselves, right? And so it's really hard, as a lot of you have known, because you've been in a lot of conversations with prospects that really feel like they can do it all on their own, right? And letting go of the reins, especially when it comes to their finances, of course, is really difficult for them, right? And so that's why I love this approach that Hani has in working with all of you and helping you to create a streamlined business so that you don't get in a situation where you're fighting for business by lowering your reimbursement percentages, right? Because nobody wins when that happens. When you guys are fighting for clients at this, what I call this race to the bottom, right? Where everybody's racing to 4%, that doesn't help anybody, because now you are not incentivized to do anything more than the bare minimum for that client, and you know that. Yet they're still looking to you to spend the extra time with them to help them figure out, why are they really not getting paid on those codes? And are the issues, is it that United Healthcare just made a change to their coverage and benefits and why they're not getting paid? And so all of these things that are really difficult for you to take the extra time to do, okay? And so again, that's where this part, the third installment of this series, right, I think is really powerful, because in the first part, I talked about how important it is to select a niche and the power of your ability to be seen as the expert in that niche, right? Now, the main thing we talked about was, in order to accomplish that, right, that's your step one. In order to accomplish that, what you need to do is you need to really understand the key problems, okay? The second part is how to listen to your prospects and build a sales interaction sequence that's based off of that connection, right? That sets the right tone with your prospects, so that instead of you're chasing them, okay, they're coming to you with the desire to work with you, right? And that's so much more important. Just think about how much easier it is to close those deals. And more than that, beyond just closing those deals, right? Beyond closing those deals, you're building relationships with those practices in the long term that are way more valuable. They see you as the trusted resource. They look to you to solve their problems. They're way more loyal to you, which of course results in higher percentage fees, okay? Because they don't just see you as a pair of hands there to submit hundreds and hundreds of claims, to do the heavy lifting, right? And so that is crucial in the way you position your company. When we talk about branding, positioning, marketing, advertising, that all works together, right? So again, that's why this approach, this part, how to leverage your ability to have that influence and act on it with an education marketing campaign that accomplishes all of those things, okay? All right, so we should all be set up. So let's jump into it, okay? So real quick, this is for you. Like I just kind of alluded to, if your practices see you as just a service to submit claims, collect money instead of that trusted ally, right? Instead of that expert opinion that they need, okay? If your practices kind of are blaming you for every mistake and payment shortfall, right? That usually is indicative of a lack of transparency with reporting on your side, or again, your account managers are overwhelmed, so they're not really connecting with whoever the key contact person is at the practice. So you get into this vicious cycle where, because they don't know what's going on, the easiest person to blame is you, right? And then finally, like I just said, you find yourself competing all the time, fighting over leads with other medical billing companies and trying to just negotiating lower and lower fees just to win the client, right? Which doesn't help anybody. Okay, so we're going to cover that. So let's jump right into where we are in terms of marketing methods, right? So in the last presentation that we did, in the last mastermind group a month ago, I asked you guys a question and I got some good feedback from everybody regarding what is it that they're doing, what you're doing now for marketing, okay? Is it a shotgun approach, okay? And so ultimately, we all kind of know that there's these traditional marketing and advertising methods, right? Which is direct mailers, cold call, especially now we're talking about digital marketing, inbound marketing, which requires you to write, 100,000 blog posts, or, pay-per-click advertising where you're spending thousands of dollars a month trying to position for keywords. And trust me, I've tried all of them, okay? And I've watched my bank account get drained month over month with a trickle of leads from all of those tactics, right? And then even then, those leads are still in such a way that I have to work way harder than I need to convert the dynamic into a relationship where I'm not chasing them, right? And so again, the power of education marketing is what shifts that entire perspective, okay? And it doesn't, what's interesting about that is, different than other marketing tactics, I understand we we default to those other marketing tactics because they're easy for us. We hire an SEO agency, right? We bring on a digital marketing company. Okay, we use a call center. It's easy to just spend some money without really changing the way we think about our approach, right? And so again, if you go to 40global.inc.com, because on the website we've got the first part and the second part that's already up there. And so you can kind of see the whole foundation to this where I mention that, where I say, like, you're still, even with all of these tactics, just to get their attention, right? In one of the most crowded spaces there is, okay, we're still getting leads that are not qualified for us, right? So that requires you to really think about what is your value, right, in a realistic way. Think about what is your positioning statements. I've seen so many elevator pitches for medical billing companies that sound exactly the same and tell me nothing, right? And so that's why it's so important to focus in on a niche, to align your personal specific founder story, your mission with that niche, so that you can create a position statement, so you can create a narrative that shows your value, right? And so once you've done that, now you're ready. Everything you do, every conversation you have, every piece of education content, any conversation you have is going to be aligned with that and show your value right away. And more importantly, get the dynamic started off on the right foot, because now you're instilling a desire in those practice owners, right? In those billing managers to want to get your help.
James, let me interrupt you for a second. I think your slides are not showing up because I'm only seeing the first slide.
Okay, let's see.
So let's just adjust that because.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry about that. Okay, so which slide do you see now?
I see the topic slide, today's topic.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So we missed a few of the slides that you were going.
Let me see if
We could use my PowerPoint if you want.
Okay, let's try it. If you have that one up, I apologize for that, everybody. Technical glitches.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Okay, James, you can keep talking. I'll switch it up.
Sounds good. Okay, sounds good.
Oh wait, I see another screen right now. Marketing tactics. Okay,
yes, that's right. Okay, good. Main screen. Okay, so let's try to stay there, and we'll see if we're good. So okay, good. So basically, so we're talking about marketing tactics, and what I'm trying to impress upon you here is you don't need all of that. Okay, which is the good news, right? Because there's all of those thousands of ways. You just want one simple system that works, right? And like I said, I've been through all of those marketing tactics. I've tried them all. And this system, without a doubt, has gotten me the biggest traction in building trust with medical practices and having them see me as a practice management consultant as their go-to for problem solving, okay? And so as we start to shape this, this is the main problem that I'm hearing is, okay, even after you've gotten that lead, then the challenge for a lot of them, if it's a cold call lead, or even if it's a call off of a white paper, or an ad or something like that, then you still have this problem that you're not getting past the gatekeeper, right? This is what I keep hearing. Well, how do I get past the gatekeeper? I can't get past the front office coordinator. How do my call center, what is the ideal script? Right? And everybody wants to know, what's the perfect sales call script? And I say, well, but if you're not starting with something of value, it just doesn't matter, because then you sound like every other salesperson that's trying to sell something to a doctor. And I gave this stat last time. On average, a doctor's office receives minimum of 25 visits, that's live visits, forget about calls, emails, everything else, into their practice per day. Pharmaceutical reps, referrals from specialists, every type of medical device company, every type of new technology company, right? Like I said, the noise is louder than it's ever been, okay? So because of that, you have to sound different, okay? And so again, that's where we go back to what I said at the beginning. You have this power of influence because you handle such a critical component of their business operations, right? It's everything. Now, like I had also said in the last presentation, it's also the thing that they're in most denial about, right? physicians are in most denial about their relationship with third-party payers that continue to pay them less and less, right? They don't want to know about that because that's what keeps them up at night, okay? We talked about how you have to speak to the personal problems that they have and then transition from the personal problems to how it's affecting them in a business standpoint, okay? So that's why for you, showing that you're the expert in that niche, you do that by using a powerful education piece or series of education pieces, right? So that's how you can really, really leverage the power of influence, okay? And so inside of that, now we're gonna get into the system, okay? And it has 3 parts, okay? The first part and the second part I'm gonna go through fairly quickly, so hang with me because these are a little bit redundant to the previous masterminds that we've done, the previous presentations, okay? But they're important to set the foundation for that final piece, which is how to build like a world-class, super powerful, really relevant piece of education or education campaign that really resonates with your target market, okay, with your ideal prospect. Okay, so the first part of that is finding the one problem, I say, right? The concept of isolation. This is really important because the biggest mistake, the why I want to drive this home is the biggest mistake that I hear you guys make is you go in with these top 10 lists of things that you say you're experts in. We're experts in, you know, submitting claims, billing and claims faster than anyone else. We'll get you more revenue. So again, you're starting off with these 10 things that still you have no idea of how well they calibrate to that practice's needs and wants, okay? But you start to create your conversation based on all of their potential problems, right? So the solution to that is finding the right problems, right? And so in order to do that, we have to start to simplify it. We have to drill down and isolate, right? And I said the one main problem, but here really the framework that I teach is looking at finding the 3 main problems that your audience has, right? So that you can help them differentiate you against your competition and identify more simply, right, an association about your brand, your positioning, and who you are, right? So instead of saying you do 10 things well, be courageous to pick one thing that connects with what they really need, that you know, based on your listening, right, that you want to be, again, the leader in. So much easier to do that, and they will remember you a lot faster. If you don't elevate that problem, they're not going to notice you, right? So that's why that initial point is crucial. Once you pick a niche or a specialty that you think best aligns with your core mission, right? Because that's where you put your heart into it. And again, in the last one, we talked about the sales approach, the way to sell without being salesy, right? And that's easy. It's all about being really clear on what your mission is. What is it about healthcare, which is not in a good state right now, that frustrates you? And how do you want to alleviate that frustration for the sake of your clients, right? If you start off from there, then everything else will get easier because they will feel the genuine desire for you to help them succeed, okay? Okay, so how do we do that? Right, we do it using what I call the 3-spoke content framework, right? Which is, okay, so now our goal is to build up a piece of content, a piece of education that really resonates, okay? So that's why we go back to this and we look at your niche, your specialty, we understand what their core problem is, right? And inside this framework, you have the unified, what I call the unified core problem solution, right? Which is what is the main problem they're experiencing, what's the solution that you provide, and what are the top 3 kind of peripheral problems that all feed into that. And I'm going to show you an example, okay? So in this example, we're using internal medicine practices, okay? So the unified core problem for an internal medicine practice is not just getting paid, but let's say you find out that you're hearing over and over again, it's getting paid enough for their chronic care patients, right? And so now in your mind, you're thinking, here's all the reasons why. I know there's new codes, you know, for chronic care coordination, and you have to put together these programs, you have to integrate all these things. That's great, right? But before you go any further, you have to ask yourself, what are the problems they know they have specific to that versus the ones that they don't know they have, right? So in this scenario, spoke problem number 1, based on surveying, based on listening, based on awareness, is that Patients no-show for their follow-up visits, right? From the physician's perspective, that's the problem number one. Okay, you may think their problem is their coding, or you may understand that, but in their mind, you got to understand it's always about from their perspective. Okay, so then spoke problem number two. Okay, now they're talking about they may have some awareness that established visit reimbursements don't cover the cost of the visit, right? They may understand that. They may look at the EOBs and say they're getting paid $60 for 99213 that's underdocumented, right? And they're understanding that even when I get a patient in here and they're here for 50 minutes, I'm getting paid $60 for them. I can't continue to run a business like that. I can't continue to pay my bills from that, right? So that's the spoke problem that they know they have. Then number three is potentially undercoding and claim denials. So they may have an idea. They may ask themselves, I'm spending 45 minutes with this patient, yet I'm only doing a level 3 established patient E&M code. Could I be doing something more? Should I change to time-based? Right? So these are all questions that they're asking from their perspective. So that's the problem from their perspective. Okay. So again, I covered this in more detail in the previous presentation. So we'll of course make sure everybody gets links to go back and review those for reference. But here I think you can understand how we want to build this, and what's most important is that it's happening from the perspective of your prospect. Okay. And so now, once you understand that, now you can get to the why. Okay. You can align on that shared purpose we talked about, which is your unique solutions, your purpose for being, and their specific challenges, right? So everybody understands that. This is when we start to get in the right frame of mind to solve the right problems for the right people at the right time. Okay. That's really important. And that's when we're ready. That's when we've earned the right then to put something valuable in front of them and then ask them to act on it, right? Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is meeting them where they are. So you heard me allude to this, the problems they know they have versus the problems they don't know they have, okay? So again, this is really important because it involves, again, you being able to find a process of sales, of communication, that forces you to spend a little bit more time listening and less time pitching, right? And I promise you, the more time you listen, the more valuable it's going to be in the long term, right? Because again, we had said it's about building relationships on a one-to-one level, okay? A physician owner, sometimes even a CFO, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, they all have a personal interest in the problems that they face day to day, okay? You have to dig deep into those problems to understand how it affects them in their day-to-day, right? And you'll see that. The third part is you get them to describe their frustration on that one problem instead of these big, vague problems. You focus in on a specific problem because that's easier for you to get someone to open up, right? To probe, to poke around the edges so that you can get a real sense for the experience, their day-to-day experience or day-to-day frustrations of that particular problem, okay? And then just by that process of them opening up to you, you're building trust, you're building credibility, you're making them feel like you understand them when no one else will listen to them, right? I mean, I use that analogy over and over again. Think about how you build relationships with family members, how you build relationships with friends, right? It's the same thing. So again, that's how we calibrate our sales approach when we are talking about important topics, important issues with our physician owners or our key stakeholders, okay? And so here you see you want to go deep into the biggest problem, right? So here's just some clues on actual questions that are good discovery questions. What frustrates you the most about that? Why does it frustrate you? Can you describe a day in your life? How does it make you feel? What are the consequences of postponing a decision to make change? Now I hear what a lot of you are saying, because trust me, I've had 5 calls already this week, people saying, I can't even get in. How do you expect me to have this type of conversation, with the physician? Like, I can't even get past the gatekeeper, right? And you're right, okay? But these questions you need to calibrate to every role in the practice. Another thing I covered, understanding the different roles. If you're talking to a front office coordinator, if you're talking to a receptionist, then you need to understand them first, then escalate, right, to the front office coordinator. You need to understand them, then escalate to the office manager, okay? So that's giving you so much more value because you're understanding so much more about the practice, again, before you've even pitched anything, right? And so that's your key. That's why that discovery process is so important, okay? So now, once we've accomplished the first phase of truly understanding the problems from their perspective, right? And once you come up with a system to engage, to communicate, to have conversations with your prospects, all the gatekeepers, all the influencers, and all the stakeholders in that practice, now you're ready to show your power as an influencer, right? Now you're ready to say you are the leader. You're ready to show that you're the leader in that niche, right? By providing topics that really resonate, okay? And this is the power of this whole system, why it's so effective, why if you're not doing this, it's going to just blow you away at how effective it is, okay? All right, so let's see. Okay, so in a nutshell, basically your goal, okay, your goal here to become the fastest way to become seen as that influencer after you've already accomplished phase 1, phase 2, is really to put together personalized, relevant, and expert education content, right? So I'm gonna talk about the different possibilities for that or what that looks like, but understanding that the important thing is that it's really personalized, right? Which is why the more you can niche down, the more you can focus on a specialty with a specific problem, the easier this is going to be. Relevant to them, right? Like we had talked about, which is that it's from their perspective and from a place of expertise, which means you've done your homework. And sometimes this is as easy as being able to decipher the Medicare final rule for them about a particular set of codes and how it affects their service deliveries, right? And so that's where you position yourself in this place where you're leveraging that power of influence through education content. And that's the fastest way to do it, okay? And so let's start to look at now what's the first step of creating something powerful, okay? And so this little graphic here, so I like to call this the surgical strike, right? So if you followed all the steps that I've recommended, right, and followed through with those, and you're now ready to create this powerful piece of education content that's going to win the hearts and minds, right, of your skeptical prospects, okay, you need to have these 3 components in place, okay? And it's what we've kind of just addressed, right? So the first part is it's the intersection between that medical specialty's very, very unique challenges, right? The prospect's specific perspective of that challenge, right? And what I called your strategic narrative. Now, those of you who were on the last one, you understood there was 5 parts of that strategic narrative. The strategic narrative, again, was just your purpose, why you're there in the first place, why you're passionate about those challenges and solving those challenges. And you could have a historical reason. You could have, experience with other like-minded or similar types of specialties. And that's what's empowered you to want to become the champion for those causes. But that's really important, is that your strategic narrative meets with the specific challenges of that medical specialty. And again, probably the most important part of it, which is the prospect's perspective of that problem, okay? It can't be your perspective, okay? You have to get to the prospect's perspective of the problem, which is why I call it the surgical strike, to get to the heart of the problem, right? What affects them emotionally, right? How does it affect their day-to-day? And I'm going to keep saying this again and again, because again, in the previous one, I said the most effective sales tool that you have at your disposal is the transference of emotion and logic, okay? To get those prospects, to get those physicians to take action, to do something about the thing that's repressing them, okay? Because remember, again, inside the third-party payer system, if you're not differentiating yourself on the side of the fence with them, then they see you as on the side of the fence with the payers, right? This happens way more often than it should. I talk to so many practices that are more than happy to totally complain about their outsourced medical billing companies. And I probe them a little bit deeper, and I find out that from their perspective, they see them as a necessary evil, no different than having to accept insurance that keeps paying them less and less, right? I've heard that. I've heard medical billing companies, they're only doing the bare minimum. They write off more than I want them to. They won't talk to me. And so that is not the place that you want to be in, right? And again, too many practices because they're fighting to get any clients they can, or I'm sorry, too many billing companies because you're fighting to get any clients. You put yourself in that position, right? And that is not the position that you want to be in. We talked about that. That puts you in the position of being the one running away from them and them kind of chasing you all the time. Okay. And so by that first contact, by that first marketing piece being something that clearly shows that you're there as that influencer, as the expert in the niche, right? Again, you motivate the desire in them to work with you. Then you've created a dynamic that allows them to be the chaser and you to be the one in control, okay? And it allows you then to use your wiser decision making, right? Your expert knowledge to help guide them down the financial journey of their practice and keep them as a long-term client, right? So one of the things that I shared was in the 10 years that I owned that primary care practice, I went through 4 medical billing companies, and they all made the same mistakes, okay? As we grew, I felt like we outgrew each of those medical billing companies. And every single time my rationalization to the churn or moving to a new medical billing company was that they just don't understand me. They don't listen to me. Okay, I can see the day-to-day things that are going on and we're not getting paid. I don't know why, and they're not helping me. I don't understand it, and I need a partner who can help me do that. I went through 4. Nobody ever accomplished that. By the 4th time, I finally figured out I need to do this myself. I built custom dashboard reports. I went through and leverage the practice management system we have to build very specific, highly kind of relatable CEO level reports that told me on a daily basis what was going on in the practice. Okay. So, but I should not have had to do that, right? I should have been able to find a revenue cycle partner that could facilitate that for me. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to look at here is once we've accomplished this, the next question is, how do we come up with the topics? How do you start to understand what topics are going to resonate, right? So we'll go back here. It's like so building that expert education content that resonates with that niche. How do you go about doing that? Well, the first part, like I said, is listening, right? Use whatever it is that you're doing now in order to understand what it is that matters to them, okay? I wanted to share this with you. So I think I told you, so I do monthly education trainings for medical practices, tens of thousands of them. And then after every one, I survey them, right? Much like you're being surveyed. What topics would you like most to receive tips, tools, and resources about? Okay, so these are some of the responses I've got across a bunch of different specialties, right? So think about how much more powerful this would be, again, for you if you were focused in on one niche, right? If you only focus on physical therapy, it would give you more certainty about what those topics were. And again, over time, you could drill that down into things that are even more specific. Okay. So I wanted to share this with you because I think this is a really important tool for you to understand how just selecting a topic and saying, well, I think this is the problem that we see is a starting point, but taking the extra time to listen and survey clients of that existing specialty will help you to hit the mark faster. Okay. All right. So inside of that, now I want to get to make sure we have enough time here because I know a lot of you are going to have questions. So inside the whole program, you have basically 5 steps, right? So step 1 is when you're approaching a piece of education, right, to implement in your education marketing program. Number 1 is setting your objectives. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Your objective is, what's the call to action? What are you trying to get them to do? Now, a lot of you have free coding analysis and you have some type of revenue cycle analysis, and those are all good, okay, but I'm going to show you a very specific system how you can pick and choose the right objective at the right time. Okay, so point 1 is setting your objectives. 2, of course, is then designing the campaign, right? How well aligned is the delivery of that education content to the problems that I know are going to get my prospects, your target clients, to act the fastest, right? So of course, you want to put something on that is somehow specific to revenue cycle, to collections, to coding, I mean, there could be some peripheral things that you feel like you do really well, depending on what your services are. But when you design your campaign, you really want to align it with what you think is the most powerful entry point into your engagement, right, with you and your ability to qualify whether or not that practice is a good fit for you. Okay, so once you design that, then you set off to create that high value content. Okay, and so I'm going to show you high value content could be a few different things, but ultimately when we talk about high value, it has to be something that addresses the problem, helps them understand their problem in a way that they didn't before, and then offers a step for them to take so that they can take action. Okay, and so that's really important, that inside the presentation of that piece of marketing, of that education piece, that you are spending enough time fleshing out the problem for them, right? Goes back to the beauty of emotion and logic, okay? You're appealing to their logic. Luckily, our prospects are analytically minded, right? So you're appealing to their desire to take action based on facts and figures, okay? But once you have that, then you have to put in the emotion part too. What's holding you back from making this change? What is the main challenge keeping you from realizing this goal that you know you can get to? Okay. So that's the foundation of high value content. Okay. Once you have that content built, part 4 of the system is infiltrating that niche, right? So once you've selected the niche, what you want to do is you want to meet your prospects where they are. And there's lots of opportunities to do that, okay? The one that works best for me, that is my favorite, is you go straight to their associations. The national associations, their community associations, all the support groups that are there to provide resources. They are always struggling to provide valuable information. And I can tell you in my experience, the #1 complaint for any type of specialty out of residency or fellowship is that they don't get enough practice management training. Okay, so this is your chance to put that education in front of them and make it really, really valuable in that way that they now automatically think, this is what I wish I learned in school, right? Now you're getting them to start that process of trust, okay? So once you've infiltrated the niche, now we're talking about the final piece, which is executing it and tracking it, right? So what's unique about education marketing is that you will see immediate results from it. But the real power comes is when you position yourself as the expert in that niche by doing it consistently, right? So if you get one topic and that topic really resonates, then you want to do, just like we're doing here, you want to do another one the next month or another one or offer replays, right? So you want to have this. So there's this, one of my favorite little kind of phrases that I found really works, especially in marketing, is this idea of propinquity, which means like consistently being in front of your prospect, right? Letting them see you all the time. And we have a lot of opportunity to do that through email blasts, through social media, through all of these different touch points, right? Through your outbound calls, all of these things that continue to keep your prospects plugged in, okay? So as you track and listen, and you listen deeper, then you can come up with more and more topics that really, really help you to get to the root of their problem, okay? So examples of high value content are sponsored research papers or abstracts, case studies are really good, webinar trainings, which by far are up there as the best because it feels like a live event. And then of course, going right into a live event like we're doing right now, right? So these types of live events, they take planning, they definitely take logistics, but once you get people in there and they're engaged and they're listening and they can interact with you, then you're able to let them feel that you're there and earn that trust, okay? Interactive self-assessments is another one that I like that gets really good response, right? Quizzes, surveys, things like that, again, where it engages them. Those are good examples of high value content, okay? So inside of that now, I wanted to present to you an ideal prospect interaction flow leveraging education content, right? So again, all of your leads will start off at a certain point that we call the top of the funnel, right? So you've got maybe affiliates, maybe you have a call center, you have partner organizations, maybe you have your website or whatever your online sources are, okay? All of those should funnel into your core content, that education content, right? So that you're able to deliver in an automatic way your expertise to many people, right? Then once you get them consuming that content, they're learning a little bit about you, right? You're getting the push into the webinar, that presentation. Now you're getting them as part of your list, getting them into Salesforce, however you track your leads. Now you know now that they're interested in the topic because they took action to engage with it, right? And then from there, your goal is to get them into a customized, unique discovery session with you, a training call, the time when you drill down and really understand what their problems are. And inside that call is when you can plant the seed for taking action, right? And I've seen it just inside that one call. If you've hit the pain points well enough and they're ready to take action, you go straight into whatever you pitch them, whatever it is, your coding analysis or your revenue analysis, and then you show them what you can do for them. Then you do goal setting, right? And that's really important inside of that, is that you're giving them some type of goals, which gives them something to reach for, and then you become the catalyst for accomplishing those goals, okay? And then you get into beginning your service. Okay, now, so here's what that looks like. Now I'm going to go through this because I call this a decision tree, right? But here's what the lead generation and inside the sales call and everything looks like. Look at how much easier, even if you are doing outbound sales call, how much easier it is when you have high value education content, right? Because you can start off with the same thing. Has the lead responded from my education content? If no, then you keep pushing that education content. And the beautiful part here is you can be as aggressive as you want because you're not trying to sell them anything. You're trying to give them something that it's like trying to give them their medicine, right? We've worked with a dozen other pain specialists like you, and we know they're getting value for this content. This is not a sales call. I have you as part of our network. We're working with the National Association in order to put this education content together specifically for practices like you. You can call them 100 times and not feel guilty about it because you can keep saying over and over again, I'm not here to sell you. It's really valuable and I want to make sure that you have a chance to get at it, right? Then once they've looked at it, now you understand that they've gone through that process. Now you can start pushing them to that next stage, which is an introductory call, right? Where you're going to seek to clarify the specific problems that they know they have, right? And so inside that call, you want to ask yourself, am I clear on those 3 spoke problems, right? And so back to the next decision. If no, then you dig deeper, you set up another call, right? And short calls work really well. A succession of short calls are better than one 1 hour long call because you're getting them to commit time and time again, right? To getting on a schedule. That works really well, okay? If you are clear on those 3 problems, that's when you, again, escalate them to the next level, scheduling that one-on-one custom discovery call. Okay, now again, the final thing I want to talk about is look at how this potentially works with the different roles inside the practice. Okay, so let's say my first call is an inbound call and I get the front office coordinator and I do a really good job of building rapport with that front office coordinator, okay, and I identify her specific problems and I get her on board with a little bit of insight into how her life could be easier, just enough to get me on the phone with the office manager. So then I schedule that introductory call with the office manager. Then I want to do the same thing. I get the office manager involved because she's got a higher level of awareness, right? I clarify what those 3 spoke problems are for her and help her paint the picture of a brighter future without those problems to escalate her to the next phase, which is getting the decision maker, the doctor on the phone for the custom discovery call, right? And so see how this works really well. And it's all still based off of this high value education content, okay? And so again, this is what a whole sequence would look like. Of course, you would customize it depending on what types of lists you have. If you knew you were getting decision makers, or again, if you're just knocking down doors and getting, if you were just getting gatekeepers all the time, okay? But this works really well, and it's a good guide for you to kind of put a process together that's happening consistently, okay? Okay, good. So here's a quick recap, right? So basically, to start with, we want to know the key problems of the niche, okay? 2, we want to choose education topics that show your value and motivate action, right? That's really important, right? When you put those together inside a framework that helps them to discover the problems that they know, connect them to the problems they don't know, and get them thinking. I like to say, how much longer are you going to endure this? How much longer can you continue to see patients and get paid half as much as you should, right? How do you get them to motivate, and take action? And then finally, you become the trusted advisor and the influencer of your niche by doing this, by infiltrating different associations, right? And being a persistent and consistent presence in their world with this valued information. Now, I've got a few medical bill clients right now that are going full bore and are getting certified to do CME. Okay, so that's a high value option. That's a long-term approach that will position you as the leader in that niche, because you get such good exposure to so many different types of practices in that role. Okay, good. Okay, so I know I covered a lot. Like I said, I wanted to run through all of it and recap everything. And so if anybody has any questions about that, now's the time, ask away.
Okay, so you'll see a question box. You can type your question in there. Anything about this session or a session that we've done in the past, anything related to sales and marketing is open for discussion. Okay. I just want to say, while we wait for the questions to come in, many times you approach a practice and you want to build that know, like, and trust. James talked about you have to get to that point with the prospect of they have to know you, they have to like you, they have to trust you. And it's not an easy thing to do for someone that doesn't know you at all. And so doing those practice evaluations where you come into a practice, you say, look, let me run a report for you. Let me do an analysis of all your outstanding aging claims. And it's a good way to get in the door, get them to at least trust you, because they see a work product without having to make a major commitment straight off the bat. So that's definitely something that we do for a lot of our clients, where we do these really nice spreadsheets and this really nice analysis, and we'll tell you exactly, what's happening with all the claims. So if you want more information about that, please feel free to reach out. And okay, question. Let me just give this over to you. Okay, so the question is, James, you got this. How should we go about creating education content? And once we have the content, how do we create a list of who to send it to? James, you with us? Okay, I think we may have lost James. Okay, so I can answer that question until James gets back on. So creating educational content, I would say, is, like James said, listen to what your customers are saying. What are their pain points? Are you focusing on a specific specialty? And if that is the specialty, let's say you're targeting all the gastro doctors, the GI clients, so you may want, maybe there's some coding changes related to GI. You may want to just create a piece of content about that. I have a client who does a lot of radiology, and all the stuff all over his website, blog, everything, it's all about radiology. He talks about managing a radiology practice, talks about radiology coding. He talks about so many different things within that specialty. And so creating a list of who to send it to, I would say there's places like WebMD that you can focus on a specific specialty just by going on the site. Or there's lists they can purchase on a certain specialty. If you're just looking to target physicians within a certain area, certain geographical area, you may just want to look at that. But I would say WebMD, or if you want to purchase a list, there are many different ways of obtaining lists for a specific specialty. Okay, looks like we lost James, and we have. Anyone has any other questions, you can feel free to put that in there. Please reply to the survey at the end. just to get your feedback and see if we want to listen to more of these, another session on marketing, or do we want to jump into something else? I think we've got a lot of positive feedback about this marketing segment. So James does have more material that he wants to cover within marketing. But if there's something else that you feel like is more more of a pressing issue, or something that you want to talk more about or want more interactive, because I know the last few masterminds have been more webinar based and less of our interactions together, please let me know so we can modify, because it's really about you guys and what you want to get out of it. Okay, we have another 2 more minutes, and that's James getting right back on. Okay, and I guess we can just end this by saying that if you want to work with James, feel free to reach out to him. His information is in the, I'll put it in the follow-up of today's call. And here you are. Okay.
Yes, sorry about that. Wow.
I just went ahead and answered Olivia's question.
Okay.
How we should go about creating educational content. So we spoke about that. And I was just saying that our next mastermind is on March 6th, so mark your calendars. We're going to do this once a month. So please let us know if this is beneficial for you, or if you'd like to see something else. James, any last words?
Awesome. Yeah, just real quick too, I don't know if you can see my screen, but I had kind of a gift for everybody today. I had put together a script.
Not see your screen. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me change it. There you go.
Okay, great. So I wanted to share with everybody something that I've been using that's been really valuable. So it's basically what I call a medical billing company gatekeeper breakthrough script, right? And so it's an example of how you can approach a call, an outbound call into a practice, promoting or offering your education content. And so everybody, I know Hani has your email addresses and you're going to get the slides, but I also want to let you know that I'm going to share this with everybody as well. Because without a doubt, this has been the most requested tool that I've had from all of my medical billing companies. And again, I think that whether you're using a call center or someone internally or doing it yourself, I think this is a really valuable piece. So.
Oh, that's very generous of you, James. Yeah. Really, I love that script. That's wonderful. Okay, so I will send that out to all of you. You'll also get the recording of this tomorrow, and it will be available on the website. And hopefully within the next 30 days, we'll have the dates for the entire year. Will be on my website, and you can just sign up for all of them throughout the year, whichever ones are of interest to you. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one. So thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of the day. And James, thanks again. Wonderful.
Thank you, Hani.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you all. Thank you.